King Charles Australian tour was soured this week with an aggressive stunt by a dimwit who has no place in politics. And the media lapped it up. Thorpe made headlines around the world, including talking to broadcasters in the UK about the stunt at length. But not all spotlight is good. And eventually the story got away from Thorpe when her office published a cartoon photo of a decapitated King Charles with the caption, "You are not our king." And the press kept eating it up. Nearly all British publications covered the story, including the Evening Standard, the BBC and The Sun. And the backlash was swift, with Thorpe eventually having to release media statements that it was not her fault, just actions of her staff. Well, we think that's an appalling and violent way to have the conversation, and any political staffer involved should have been sacked immediately. But that wasn't the end of the story for Thorpe. She soon took to the ABC to gloat about not having sworn her oath of allegiance correctly.
I swore allegiance to the Queen's hairs. If you listen close enough, it wasn't her heirs, it was her hairs that I was giving my allegiance to. And now that, they're no longer here, I don't know where that stands.
But Thorpe was soon backpedalling. Calls were mounting for the senator, who hadn't properly completed an oath, to be booted from Parliament. Soon she was back on air, promising it was all a misunderstanding. That arrogant and gloating interview she gave to the ABC morphed into a sob story about her poor literacy skills.
Now, forgive me for not being, my English grammar isn't as good as others, and I spoke what I read, so I misspoke, and to have this country question, or particularly people like Dutton and other senators from his party, for them to question my legitimacy in this job is an insult, and they can't get rid of me.
Thorpe, who only became a senator by leeching off the back of Greens votes before quitting the party, probably has realised her $200,000 plus salary from the Crown isn't worth risking. I mean, a lot to unpack there, Darren, but essentially she managed to take the entire media cycle for nearly a full working week with just these bizarre acts.
Yep.
It's absurd.
It's, look, whatever penalty the Senate hands down, hopefully it's severe, but, starves her of the oxygen that she so clearly craves. It was a very ugly tantrum. And she's poor value for money. I think by the time her term ends in 2028, she would have been paid nearly $1 million, and a million. Yeah. So, if you look at the damage she's done over the past year, taking up the Palestine fight against Israel, that's actually alienated a lot of Australian Jewish supporters of Indigenous reconciliation. So she's doing a lot of harm at the moment, and has been doing a lot of harm for some time. She's poor value for money.
Good point. Stephen, your thoughts?
Well, firstly, look, I'm going to defend Lydia Thorpe here and say at least she's more articulate than Kamala Harris, and every court needs its fool, and the King's Court had that. And look, His Majesty was clearly entertained by it. He leant over to Albo and said, "Do you know if she does bucks parties and weddings as well?" Look, I mean, she argues that other people question her legitimacy. She questions her own legitimacy.
Yes.
She doesn't believe in the authority of the Parliament, yet sits in the Parliament and takes our money under false pretences. I mean, there's no legitimacy to this woman, and the less oxygen we give her, the better. In 3 years, she'll be gone, and we won't have to see her ever again.
I agree with that fake outrage about how dare they question my legitimacy when she... it's not as if people just out of the blue accused her of not doing it. She told everyone, ha ha ha, I didn't do it. Absurd.